Welcome to Find Me the Money. Today's guest is Jackie Pilossoph, and we're talking about going back to work after divorce. Jackie is the founder of Divorced Girl Smiling, the company that connects people facing divorce with trusted, vetted divorce professionals. Divorced Girl Smiling is also a podcast, a website, a mobile app, and a well-known brand and community. Divorced Girl Smiling has a mission to empower, connect, and inspire men and women before, during, and after divorce. Jackie has a master's degree in broadcast journalism. She's a former television news reporter and a features reporter and writer for the Chicago Tribune. Her syndicated weekly column, Love Essentially, was published in the Pioneer Press, the Chicago Tribune, and all Tribune publishing editions for 6.5 years. Jackie was also a Huffington Post divorce blogger for 5 years. And Jackie Pilossoph has 4 books on Amazon. She wrote Divorced Girl Smiling, the novel. Jackie, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me, Tracy. I'm excited to be here.
I'm so excited to talk with you today because I know that you have personal experience with divorce, and that's what sort of motivated you to create Divorced Girl Smiling. So I would love for you to give the audience a little bit of a background on what your experience was with divorce.
So when I got divorced, I was 41 and I had 2 toddlers. And I would say the hardest part for me was that I felt really isolated. I felt alone. I didn't know one person who was divorced, and I had no family in town. And back then, it was 2007, so there wasn't the online information that there is now. The profession of divorce coaches did not exist. There weren't the resources. There weren't financial advisors who specialized in divorce. And so for me, the hardest part was feeling isolated, both from friends and also from professionals who I thought could help me in my divorce. I didn't know where to find resources.
And I think that experience is pretty typical. I know you were divorced quite some time ago. I think it was 2007. But even today, I know, even though there are more resources out there, so many men and women are feeling isolated in that process. They don't know where to get information. They don't know what professionals they should use. So that certainly is a great benefit from Divorced Girl Smiling, to connect them with those professionals, but also to give them a community where they can talk with people who are going through what they are. Because God bless friends and family, but at some point they get tired of hearing about your divorce, and it's fun and comforting to be able to talk to people who are going through the same thing you are.
Right. I always say my married friends, I knew they loved me. They still do. They're awesome. They're still in my life, but they just didn't understand how I was feeling. And so to have a community, the Divorced Girl Smiling Facebook group, the Divorced Girl Smiling site, articles, a podcast, professionals, you feel like you're heard and validated in ways you really might not from people who are married and who have known you your whole life.
Right. So since this podcast is called Find Me the Money, we love focusing on money issues. And I know that part of your work with Divorced Girls Smiling is making sure that men and women take care of their finances when they're divorcing. So since our audience is mostly women, I do want to talk about the money from the perspective of women. And so I want to first get a little bit about your divorce experience on the financial side.
So first off, I want to tell your listeners that I love what you're doing, Tracy, and Find Me the Money and the Divorce Money Guide. Those are so important to people. And when I was going through a divorce, I probably would have bought the Divorce Money Guide because I didn't know what was going on. I still don't know. Maybe my ex did hide money. I have no idea to this day. And so I love what you're doing. But to answer your question, for me, I had been a stay-at-home mom for like 5 years. I quit my job after I had my first child. And I was wealthy back then. My ex made a lot of money. I mean, I want to tell your listeners, I've been in all different financial brackets. I've been wealthy, I've been struggling for money, and everything in between.
Right.
So I really do understand a lot of these situations. And I didn't really know who I was, and I didn't know if I needed to go back to work financially. And honestly, I didn't want to know. And that was my biggest mistake in divorce. I waited a long time before I went to a financial advisor and had a very structured financial plan done for me. And it was the best thing I ever did and the hardest thing I ever did, because what they told me was, if you don't go back to work, you'll be out of money in 7 years. And I was like, wait, what? Really?
Wow.
I mean, I didn't know what I was bringing in. I didn't know what I was spending. I didn't understand it and didn't even want to know.
So I know that you are a huge advocate of working with a financial planner for those very reasons, because it can help you get a handle on what your budget is, how long your money might last you and things like that. And so you got that advice to go back to work. Was that hard advice for you to hear after being a stay-at-home mom?
Not only was it hard, it was traumatizing. And I'll tell you why I didn't want to go back to work. I was a very protective mother. I didn't want to leave my children with a sitter. I didn't really know how to work and be a mom. So there's a lot of fear for women who are wondering, should I go back to work? There was fear of technology. I didn't even know how to text. I was intimidated. I was afraid to get a computer because I was a writer, so I knew how to write in a Word document, but I wasn't technologically savvy or anything. Now I can be an IT person. And so there were many fears. I was afraid I wouldn't be good at a job. Who's going to want to hire me? I mean, I could go on and on. There were so many fears. And hearing that from a financial advisor in the end turned out to be the best thing for me. But at the time, it was terrifying.
There are a lot of fears. And one of the things that I commonly hear is we had a life plan as a married couple that I was going to stay home and raise the kids. And now someone's telling me I have to go back to work. Maybe a judge is telling you have to go back to work. I don't want to put my kids in daycare. That's not what we planned. Unfortunately, the divorce court judge doesn't really care what the plan was. There is an expectation that you're going to work and help support yourself and your kids, and that you're not only going to rely on alimony and child support to do that, right?
And how much does that hurt if you weren't the one who wanted the divorce? That would be even worse.
Right.
And it feels
Right.
very unfair. And some people have to go back to a job they didn't even like. But I want to tell your listeners, you don't have to go back to the job you don't like forever. Go back to the job you don't like and look for something else that you really do like. Because I promise you, there are so many wonderful benefits. Tracy and I haven't gotten to this part of the podcast, but when I did go back to work, I can't even count the benefits and how much it changed my life for the better.
Well, let's get into it. Tell us about some of those benefits. Well, wait, before you tell us the benefits, tell us, did you go back to the career that you were in before, or did you find a new career for yourself?
I went back to sales. I kind of have two careers, journalism and sales. And throughout my life, I have had jobs in both. The ones I love most are the journalism, the writing, the reporting, and sales. To me, I didn't hate it or anything, but it's a lot of pressure. You have to make quotas, and it wasn't like my passion or anything. So in order to make money, I went back into sales, but I also had a side gig for the Chicago Tribune that I was doing for the love of the job and to try to get me to ultimately be able to just do journalism, which actually worked out. And that's what I do now.
I think one of the really important things to remember when you are going back to work after having been out of the workforce, whether it's for a couple of years or, like some of my clients, it's been 10, 15, 20 years since they've been in the workforce. Whatever job you go back to doesn't have to be the job you're going to stay in forever. It has to be good enough for right now. Can you stomach this job for a period of time and tell yourself, I'm going to do this for a year until I figure out my next best move, right? You don't have to be stuck in whatever it is you're doing today.
Absolutely. Now, we don't want you to be crying every morning before work.
Right.
I don't want to go there. That's different. But if you have an end goal, like for me, I was working on Divorced Girl Smiling, and I thought, someday I'm just going to be able to do that. And a year ago, I quit the job and now I'm just doing Divorce Girl Smiling. And because I always had that in the back of my mind, it motivated me to really work harder on the weekends and at night at Divorce Girl Smiling because I knew that I had a goal.
Well, and I know that it can be hard if you have small kids to think about, well, sure, I'm going to go back to work and am I going to have this side thing that I'm working on or am I going to be trying to go to school at night to get a new career? It's overwhelming. We talked about divorce being isolating. I find for my clients and my customers for the Divorce Money Guide that it is all overwhelming. There's a lot of change and a lot to think about. But I also think, Jackie, what I'm hearing you say is that having that side thing that you were doing was really motivating and sparked some joy for you.
It absolutely did. And I also want to say that when you are busy, really busy, and feeling overwhelmed, I believe you get more productive. You learn how to handle things better. And I don't want to cut anyone down, but I feel like all of these like stay-at-home moms who didn't have to work, they would be the ones who didn't have time to do the holiday parties or the volunteering or bring in cupcakes. It was always the working moms who did it. And because I do believe the more you have to do, the more efficient you become. I really believe that. It sounds overwhelming, but really, you're so smart. I'm telling your listeners this, and you're so organized, and you will become much more efficient and you'll love yourself for it.
Well, and also, I think that your kids get a chance to see you just take the bull by its horns and really like, wow, look at my mom doing this, this, and this. They learn from what they see you do. So, certainly a benefit there. But let's jump into those benefits that you found from returning to work.
All right, I don't even know if we're going to have enough time. There's so many. But what I do want to say before I forget the first one is that when you are busy like that, working and feeling overwhelmed, you don't have time for all this little drama going on in your divorce. You don't have time to sit there and think about the text that your ex sent you last night that was so upsetting because you're so busy, it doesn't even matter. And that is so much better for your mental and emotional well-being.
Okay, so give me the benefits of going back to work. Let's start with the biggest one.
Oh, the biggest one, well, obviously the money. Okay. But I want to take the money out of it. Let's just leave that out. That's a given. Of course, you're going to be making your own money. You're not going to be waiting for that child support check and thinking, I hope he pays this month and I don't have to go back to court to get the money and or harass him or whatever because I have my own money now. So if it's a few days late, it's okay.
I
But
got to tell you, that stress waiting for those support payments, women saying to me, I might not be able to make the mortgage payment this month. He's been delaying paying me. And, when I talk to women about going back to work, that is the number one benefit is that the mortgage is paid whether or not he makes your support payment. Yes, legally, he needs to make it. Morally, he needs to make that payment. But if he delays it, if he loses his job, whatever happens, that mortgage payment is still covered.
absolutely. And all right, so moving on to the second benefit is self-esteem. You will feel, and this ties into not waiting for the child support check, you will have so much self confidence, better self worth, and feel so good that you actually are taking home that paycheck. And wait till you get a raise and wait till you get promoted. And it's a really good feeling. You should feel that way because a lot of women forget how amazing they were in their career. You lose a sense of it when you stay home and you have a wealthy spouse and you just have their money. It happened to me. I could go out and buy a Prada bag any day of the week when I wanted to. I was a stay-at-home mom and I've never been more miserable in my life. And then when I was going through the stage of having to save and struggling a little bit, I loved myself and I was so much happier.
Right. And we're not saying it's not going to be hard and there's not still going to be struggles. And you might be in a job that you don't love or that you're not getting paid a whole lot for. But there is certainly some positive feelings that come from making your own money and being on a path to a better future, whether, maybe you're staying in this job that you don't love that much for the next year or two, but you know that down the road, you're going to be progressing and making improvements and all of that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. And let's not forget all about the wonderful people you're meeting. In that sales job that I went back to, I met the most amazing, wonderful, awesome people who I learned from, who I became friends with. I went to their kids' weddings. We had parties. We laughed. They were so kind and they enriched my life. And that's another benefit. You're meeting this whole group. And let's not even forget about who they could set you up with. So now this is a wonderful way to meet people. You're getting dressed up every day. You're putting on makeup. You're wearing nice clothes and you feel better about yourself. And you never know who you're going to meet that's going to enrich your life in a better way, either through dating or through your career or a hobby or a volunteer position, anything. And it's just wonderful. It's just another benefit of going back to work.
I love it. So we've got some really good ones so far, and you threatened that we wouldn't be able to get through all the benefits. So what's your next one?
All right, the next one is let's talk about the kids. So when I was a stay-at-home mom, I used to look at the clock and I couldn't wait for my kids to go to bed. I'm ashamed to say it. I'm not proud of it, but I did not enjoy the baby toddler playing games with them. It was fun for like 20 minutes, but when I went back to work, I started to appreciate my kids so much. And people fear that they're not going to be with their kids. Well, guess what? The time that you are with the kids is so much richer. It's more fulfilling for both people. The kids appreciate you, you appreciate them. My kids think I'm a great mom, and they, I know, are thinking about when they were older, because even now, the time we spend together, I love it. I can't wait for it. And it's because we're all really busy and we appreciate the time together.
I think that's a benefit that some women might not be thinking of if they're a stay-at-home mom, because they're thinking about how my time with my kids is going to be reduced if I go back to work, and that's going to be really, really devastating to me. But they're not thinking about the flip side that, hey, the time you do have together might be even more special.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Hit us with another benefit. Give us one more.
Okay. Another one is your 401k. So if you're not working, you are not contributing anything to your future. If you do have to go back to work and you even save the teeny tiniest bit, you're going to have this chunk of money before you know it. You'll look up and you'll go, oh my gosh, I now have $3,000 in my account. And maybe your company matches it. And it's such a nice thing to have a chunk of money, because then when your kids go to college and, you need more money, you need money for books, you need money for their coming home, flights and things, you're going to have this nugget that you never would have had.
Well, I know that there is a lot of fear surrounding the retirement years when you're getting divorced. There's a lot of fear about financial insecurity. So certainly the ability to save for retirement because of that new job is a fantastic benefit of going back to work. Are there any benefits that you feel like, before I hit my final thing that I wanted to ask you about, any other benefits that we absolutely have to talk about?
Yes. And I'm so glad you said that, because I was like, ooh, I hope I get to give one more.
Okay, good.
You will be able to buy yourself stuff, take vacations, spend money on things that you love without feeling guilty, and with the pride of knowing that you made that money. And that is the best feeling in the world. And life is meant to be enjoyed, and money is meant to be spent. And if you want to take your kids on a trip to Florida and you couldn't do it before and you were stressed and now you can, that is the best way to spend money. Or if you want a Prada bag, buy it for yourself. Life is way too short not to have material things that you want to, and now you can get them.
I love that. But Jackie, the reality is that many women who are going through divorce are very stressed about money. It is one of the top stressors. The two topics that are the hardest in divorce are what's going to happen to the kids and child custody, and what's going to happen to my money, and will I be able to support myself? So, what advice do you have for divorcing women who are feeling that stress about the money?
All I have to say is look at me. I did it and you can too. But the key is that you have to believe in yourself. Remember how awesome you were at your career before you got married and had kids. Remember where you came from. Remember what you've achieved. Even if you've never had a job in your life, remember that you're a great mother. You know how hard it is to be a mother and a stay-at-home mom? And let's say you don't have kids and you were just a wealthy housewife. Well, think about like what you did. Did you volunteer? What are some of the things you did? And honestly, if you never did much, it's never too late. But if you believe in yourself, you can do anything you want. And I know that sounds really hokey, but I am living proof. And if I can do it, I went back kicking and screaming and I did it and it worked out well for me and it will work out for you too.
I love that. And it's about making progress and small steps towards your goals. I know that it is overwhelming to think about where you need to get career-wise, where you need to get your money situation, all that kind of stuff. But making progress towards that goal is so important. So, Jackie, as we wrap up, tell us where to find you and Divorced Girl Smiling.
So there's only one address, divorcedgirlsmiling.com. And that is a way to read articles, listen to podcasts, download my mobile app, sign up for my free consult, join the Facebook group, and just get involved in whatever you feel you need from the site. And of course, most importantly, find trusted, vetted divorce professionals, including Tracy.
I am so honored to be a part of the Divorced Girl Smiling family. I love all the resources that you have, Jackie. For anyone who is going through divorce and looking for information, support, resources, Divorced Girl Smiling is the place to go. So you better check it out at divorcedgirlsmiling.com. Thanks again for being here, Jackie. It's been fun.
Oh, Tracy, thank you so much for having me.